Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dion. This is the Crazy Troll Nation. Not this. The channel is the Crazy Troll Nation. This is chapstick. And we start our videos with chapstick. The Crazy Troll Nation is because we just say crazy stuff like that. We have fun on our channels and we enjoy the channels that we're subscribed to. The troll part of the Crazy Troll Nation is not caring too much about what the beauty community standards of beauty are. You set the standard for yourself. Love yourself for who you are and for how you look. Embrace your natural features. Enhance them if you want to and when you want to, but not because you feel like you have to. The bottom line is self-acceptance and self-love. And also regarding the beauty community standards, you do not have to use a certain brand or a certain tool or a certain technique. Use what you want to use, however you want to use it to get your makeup on the way you want it to be. Love you for you and for how you look. That is the concept of the Crazy Troll Nation. This is what else you will see here. Wow, that sounded kind of professional. Is troll learning here? Okay, usually, you see from the title what we're doing. If I know I'm doing a video later that day, I leave my brow pencil in my restroom. That door right there is the restroom because it just saves me 3 or 4 minutes sitting here doing that. And so I thought, I'll do another brow video. So this will be in my beginner series playlist. And so if you're seeing this, that's where you can find it along with other beginner series things. So if you're having questions about why does she do this way, or what about this, or if you're just curious to see how someone does something maybe differently than you do, and also to hear my reasoning why. And so no face paint on. I just did my skincare. I just got up like 30 minutes ago. Yes, and it's in the evening because troll is nocturnal. So I noticed with this brow pencil in particular, this is Lauder. It came in a subscription box and it says Arch Rival Brow Artist Pencil. Dark brown it says here. What I noticed, this is very creamy. So what I noticed the first time I used it, it just went skrr, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it just really caught me off guard. This is the pencil side. That's completely white is the spoolie side. So I like how they did it where you know this side has the color. So what I learned to do was, because it's so creamy, after I do my skincare, and I do wait 10, 15 minutes or so, I will go like this over my brows just to remove any excess skincare that has not absorbed, especially over here where there is no hair. So in videos where my brows are done and I say, oh, my brow hair stops here, and I try to make the tails even, this is my brows. And so I over plucked, over tweezed intentionally. Let me back way up. I think I was about 35, 36, 35, 34. I went to get my brows waxed. Wonderful job. Loved it. It was my first time ever even doing anything like that to my brows. And I didn't start wearing makeup until I was like 34, 35. So the whole thing was new to me. The whole pamper thing was new to me. Fell in love with facials. Oh my gosh, they're so relaxing. I need to schedule a massage and I need to have one at least once a month. Every 2 weeks would be great, but once a month. They're expensive. But then so is some of my makeup and skincare. But anyway, I started learning how important self-care was. The third time I had my brows waxed, it left me with second-degree burns, and it was all the way here because the wax just doesn't go, it doesn't go, if you've ever had your brows waxed, you know this, the brow doesn't go on your hair. It goes like just above and under here, underneath. And so I had second-degree burns this entire area, like this whole area on both sides and up top. And it was so bad, I wore a foundation that was like 2 shades darker than my skin tone to camouflage how awful it looked. And it lasted for weeks and weeks. And so it was 2 days after, because first, you know, you have a little redness or whatever. And then like the second day, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what the hell? And so I went back in. Well, I called her. Well, actually, I texted her and said, do you have some time to talk about the wax on my brows from 2 days ago? She said, yes. So I called her. I told her what happened. I told her what I was doing to camouflage it. And I also had a pedicure because she does, well then, because this was like 15 plus years ago, she did waxing for brows, pedicures, and manicures. And so after she did my brows, she did a pedicure. And she said, please come in and I'll reimburse you for the brows. And because I had told her I was going to come in because I wanted her to see like how bad it was. And so when I went in, she looked at me and she just went, and then she like grabbed her wallet and pulled out a bunch of money and was like handing it to me. Like she didn't even say anything. She was just like, oh. Like the way she looked at me was like, fuck. And so I do curse on my channel sometimes. And so I counted the money and she had gave me the money for the brows and the pedicure. And the pedicure I think was like $35. And I'm like, no, here, take this back. She was like, no, keep it. And I'm like, no, take it. She's like, no, keep it, please, just keep it. Just take all of it. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, I don't know if she thought I was going to sue her or what. I don't know. And so after that, I started tweezing my brows because I already had the shape from the waxing, right? Like, of course, I had to wait forever, it seemed like, for the burn marks to go away. And so I maintained the shape. But what the shape was, even if you look now, this one has a natural peak right here, and it's up. This one curves downward. So that's my natural shape of my brows, where it would go like this. This one would come this way, and this one would come down. And so what I did was I over tweezed intentionally to where the peak is, to where this one goes up and this one comes down. So when I do my brows, I can at least try to get the tails even. Are they ever even? I think not, but I try. And so that is why, if I could go back in time, I'm not sure if I would over tweeze. And I say that because my brows used to be really fluffy, just really wild. And I'm going to link my other brow video below, because how I tame my brows is I'm going to use the spoolie side. And I do have a video showing this too, like how I tame them and why they always just kind of look like this. No matter what I do, they're not wild and sticking up everywhere. And what I do, I have a small brush in the bathroom. I brush them up, and I have a pair of scissors, and they are curved. I think they're for cuticles, but I use it for brows. And so I'll brush my brows up, and I'll cut along the top line where any hairs are sticking up, and then I'll brush my brows down. And how you see a few hairs that are sticking down, I'll take the scissors and cut those off. And so wherever my brows go, they're pretty much still contained. And when I do my skincare, I do always go over my brows with the skincare. So my brows are trimmed, they're tamed all the time. And sometimes when I don't have face paint on, people don't even notice that my brows aren't done, because they always look like this, except when I need to trim them. So I know, well, I believe that I would at least tweeze under here, because I had hairs under here, way over here. And even now when I tweeze, because once you pull out the hair follicle, because you're going to tweeze and it'll just snap the hair off, but once you get out the hair follicle, that hair in that exact spot will not grow back because you've pulled out the follicle. And so maybe every week or so, or if I happen to notice there's like a hair down here or a hair over here, I'll just tweeze out those hairs. Or if it's like a wild hair up here, you know, I'll just tweeze that. And so I don't have to tweeze this area anymore at all, because the follicles have long been pulled out from tweezing. And so that is why my brows look like this. I don't think I would recommend over tweezing. Actually, I do not recommend over tweezing. There was a time when beauty industry, it was those little really thin, just like a line for brows. And I think that's what ended up being the trend for, you know, having thin brows, almost no brows, or just completely shaving them off and then painting them on, which I always thought was kind of ridiculous, but people did it. And then the puffy, fluffy brows were back in. And I remembered liking that my brows were fluffy. And so what I think I would do if I could go back in time, I would just brush them up and just trim them. Like keep all of this fluffy and just try to maintain the shape or get it even or not even care about it as much as I did back then. And if you watch videos, like really look at the person, and I know I've said this before, there are very few people whose face is symmetrical. Like even looking at me now, this is me looking at you, but then I can't see me. So this is me looking at me. I can see how there's a little more mobile lid space here than it is on this side. This side is more hooded, even though both sides are puffy. And when you look at, you know, this nostril is up higher than this one. You can tell my laugh lines, this one is here, this one's way over there. My lips are not symmetrical. The way I smile, you know, my cheeks are not symmetrical. This side is rounded. This side is like right here. It's weird as fuck, I know. And I'm saying this to say, I dare say 99.9% of people, their face is not symmetrical. Even looking at my eye shape, this eye is a little droopy. This side is not as droopy as far as like where my lash line goes. You see what I'm saying? And so when I look at people's faces when they're doing their videos, their brows are not even either. And even when they fill them in and, you know, do all the things, you can still tell that they're not even. And even if their brows are even, their eyeshadow is not the same on both eyes because they compensate to make it kind of look the same. And because this side comes down further, because of the shape of my eye, there's more space over here. And so I'll see people, they have, you know, like if I have a darker transition shade here, they'll have that same shade here, but it's higher up because they're trying to make it look even. But if you really, really look and pay attention to detail, you can tell, okay, this eye is a little higher up than this eye. This brow is higher up than this eye. And I have seen videos where it is really like this. And I'm like, wow. And even though I say, you know, embrace your natural features, I love it when I see that. Like, don't try too hard or so hard to get your face perfect because you're perfect the way you are. You are uniquely you. Your imperfections are what makes you perfect. They're what makes you unique. And so I want you just to embrace that. And so even though I try to get my brows somewhat even, I don't spend a lot of time on it. And the same when I do a dark lip, it accentuates how uneven my lips are. And I'm like, it is what it is. And I don't try too hard. And when I do try too much to get things even, it ends up looking worse. So then it's like, why did I even start doing that? And that's another reason I don't go for full coverage concealer. I have discoloration under my eyes. Yes, I know you noticed I don't have one any face paint right now. And so I do put on concealer, but I don't go for the flat, matte, you don't see anything of me in there. And I don't mind, you know, my freckles poking through when I have on foundation. If there's still a little redness there, you know, so be it, because there's redness there. And so we're going to do the brow. I really didn't intend on saying all of that. I do have a mirror down here, so I don't even know why I went in like that. And it is lighter up here because there's a lighted mirror behind my phone and there's single lights on both sides. And what that does is when I look up here, it looks bright. When I look down here, it looks shadowed. So, but the first thing I do, let me move this. The first thing I do, I brush my brows over. So let me know what you think of all of that. And I do want you to start really paying attention to how things look, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it, unless you're just delusional or you just make a conscious effort. I shouldn't say delusional, unless you make a conscious effort not to see it. And so there's certain people I watch and I'm just like, and I love it though. So understand that I do love it because you are who you are. And so because this side goes up, I may kind of brush it down. If I just brush it straight the way it goes, you see how it goes. There's these hairs up here and I refuse to pluck those. And so I'll just kind of come down a little bit with the spoolie, or when I'm using a Fenty, it has a brush, which I really like. So then I'll take the brow pencil. I like this one because of the coloring. And again, it is very waxy. And so I'm doing this again, different fingers, making sure I'm getting off excess skincare so it doesn't skirt and create my, you know, brows over here. And what I'll do is I will come to where, I don't know how you can see me best, if I just try and look up here or do down here. I'll do down here. I will come to where this peak is right here, and I will just draw a line. I try to go straight out so it doesn't look like a horseshoe. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so I'll do this side first because this side has the prominent arch. And then, you know, I'll look over there, you know, this side, and I try to do the same thing here. Now keep in mind, this side is the side that goes down. So I'm trying to go straight here without going up where the brow would go. And for this side, I'm trying to just go straight instead of curved. And so it's weird. So this side I'm curving, but this side I'm trying not to. So that's what makes it challenging, because they are different shapes and I'm trying to get the shapes the same. And so I'll just go back and forth just to try to get this bottom line the same. And then I'll take a pinky just to kind of see, is it kind of lined up? Close enough. And so then, so then I'll come up top. I'll come above where the arch is. And the reason I do that is because this, I like how this is full right here. And so I try to play off of that while also trying to have an arch. And this side, you can see where the arch is. But I will go above that because I want my brows to look fluffier than they are, even though there's no hair over here. And I just bring that top line too far. And so this is what I do. I'm having trouble seeing myself down here because I'm looking down instead of up in my mirror this way. And so that's there. It looks funky. Just wait, trust the process. And I'll try to do the same shape over here. So for this side, I just come a little above, try to get it even. And I think it may be because I came too far over with the top line on that one too. So this is our shape. This is the shape of the brows that we're going to fill in. But before we fill them in, I come to where the hair is and I come over to where that line is. I am really having trouble seeing. And I'll come across the top and create a line. You've seen my videos. I'm not fancy. I don't do the stencils. I don't do the blocks. I don't use concealer to clean up the edges or anything. On the bottom, I just go along the lash line, not the lash line, my eyebrow line, just for continuity of color. And sometimes it's difficult, and so I will raise my brows, which I don't always, because sometimes then it just makes things look a little bit worse. And so I'll do the same thing on this side. I'll come across the top. Sometimes, sorry for smacking, sometimes I try to do an arch, and then sometimes, like now, I don't. And right now, I'm really not, because I'm having trouble seeing in the mirror down here because it's dark down there. And I do have a bunch of moles, freckles. I guess they're freckles. What's the difference? I don't know. I think when I think of moles, I think of raised moles. And so that would make these, to me, freckles. And so sometimes that makes it challenging too, because I'm thinking I'm seeing the brow pencil and it's not. It's, you know, the marks on my face. And so this is what we're working with. I don't like this right here because I went up higher than my hairline. And I try not to go too dark right here because I want it darker on the outside because there's no hair here. So this is going to look darker anyway. And I then go back. I try to get these even because also inside is not even. This side is down further than over here. Like this stops here and this side is more squared off, where this side kind of tapers inward. And so even that is, yeah, my brows are not. So then I'll come back here and I will fill in. Sort of like when you do your wing liner. Or if you try to wing your liner, you do the line down here and then you bring it in and then you fill in the gaps. So that's that's kind of the opposite way of brows, because we're not going up to fill in, but we've created the shape and then we're filling in the inside of that line. I am really struggling here. I really hope you can see what I'm doing. And thank you for being here. This is longer than I thought. I'm being more detailed than I thought. I don't think my first one was this long. So I'll fill in the tail part first, and I do go heavier, hoping that the color will at least match up here. And then I'll come over and I'll do the tail on this side. So if you recall, from here to here, there's no hair. So I'm kind of faking it here. I have a straight hair that's hanging down. And I do the tails first because that's what's more important to me, to get even without trying too hard, messing up too hard. The reason I start with this eye first, this is my right hand. I know it's on your left side. I am right hand dominant. And so I find that it's easier for me to do this one and it look really, really nice. But then trying to reach over and duplicate it, it's always jacked up. And so it's easier for me to get them somewhat the same if I reach over and do this side first and then try to get this side to match this side. I hope that makes sense. I hope. And so that's why I did this side first. Everything I did, I drew the shape first over here, then this shape, filled in over here. Now I'm filling in over here. And once the tails are filled in, you know, I'm looking at the color. Is the color almost the same? And then I'll just go back and forth, just trying to get that color. And also making sure I'm filling in the space that we created. And then I'll go back. Okay, so how's that looking? Right? I think this one, actually this one is usually more pointed down here. And I don't know if it's something with how the pencil wears or not. And so sometimes I'll try to come back and get this a little pointed, but I don't give it too much attention because eventually it's going to end up rounded. And that's what I was saying earlier, is when I keep trying, sometimes it just gets worse. And so at a point, I'm just like, this is what it's going to be today. And then I'll go back, and because we did the top line and the bottom line, I lightly feather just to fill in that in-between space, even though there's hair here. So I don't need a lot of color here. The only time I need a lot of color here is if I'm using a really dark brow color and I'm trying to get the color consistent. But for this color, I don't need to put a lot here. And as I get closer inside to this part, I feather even lighter because I do like the gradient of how brows look. Brows are not just a block of color. And I know some people do that, and I like how it looks. For me, I just prefer to look more natural, even though this isn't natural because I don't have tails. I tweeze them off. And so, but I want it to look natural. And family, oh my gosh, family is a mess, which explains why I'm a mess. When I do my brows, they don't notice. When I don't do my brows, they don't notice. Like, they don't notice either way whether my brows are done or not, which you saw them before I did all of this. And so if I did a side-by-side picture, you would be like, yeah, that makes a difference. They don't even notice. They don't. And I'm just like, whereas I would notice something like that. One of my aunts one time, it was so funny. It was her birthday. And you know, they do birthday lunches. Whoever birthday it is, get together, go to lunch. Usually I miss it because they say lunchtime. I'm like, lunchtime to me is 8 o'clock at night. So you need to give me like a specific time. And so usually it's like 11 or 12 o'clock. And I'm like, if I'm awake, I'll make it. But I don't know. And then they're an hour away. So I'm like, even if I do roll over and wake up, am I alert enough to drive? And usually the answer is no. So I do miss a lot of birthday lunches. But one day in particular, for her birthday, this was a couple years ago, and we went out to eat, and this, whatever the person, whoever birthday it is, whatever they feel like eating, that's where we go. And so we were sitting in the restaurant, and this was pre-COVID. We were sitting in a restaurant, and I'm just going really lightly right here. I don't do too much on the inside because, as I said, the shapes are completely different, as is my entire brow. And so I don't try to perfect the shape that it is, because then it'll just look more different. Like when I line my lips, it's like very noticeable that they're uneven. And so I don't try too hard to match up how they look. And you see what I mean? Even just filling in the natural brow hair, this side is squared and this side is rounded and down. See what I mean? So this one is here and it's squared. This one is here and it's rounded. You see what I mean? And so I usually keep them like that. Sometimes I try to round this one, it doesn't work. I try to square this one and it makes it more noticeable that it's different because it'll square, but then it's further down here, whereas this one is up here. And sometimes I think the tweeze right here, and I'm like, I'm done over plucking. I'm done over tweezing. So it just is what it is. But for the sake of this video, I will try to bring this down just a little bit. Try to curve it down, even though it's still not going to be rounded. So we're sitting there in the restaurant, and I'm sitting next to her. And she didn't wear makeup. Like, she really didn't. I'm the only one in my family that really wears makeup. You know what? My niece does. But my aunts and them, they don't. And so, and also, you see what happened when I tried to bring it down. You can see the color's different because there's no hair here. And so then I have to go darker. And this is when I'm like, I need to just stop and just should have left it the way it was because it still doesn't look the same. So we're going to stop. And then, no, we're not going to stop. We're going to just go under here just to try and get a straight line. And now we're going to stop. So we're sitting there. And I looked at her and I was like, I said, are you wearing foundation? So we're going to just take the spoolie. And I only brush over where the hair is. I don't brush over here because there's no hair there. So I just brush right here very lightly. And sometimes just to thin out the color, like right here on the inside, because I want that gradient. And this right here looks like it needs a little more color. And so this is how I do my brows. And so I looked at her and looked again. I said, you wearing foundation? She was like, yeah, why? I said, 'cause it looks like you just like smacked it on your face and just smeared it in. And she said, yeah, that is what I did. I just put it on and just went like this. And I was like, I was like, okay. And so she said, does it look bad? And I said, no, it doesn't look bad, but it does look like you just took it and just, you know, smeared it. Because it was like places missing, and then you can see like the finger marks. And I said, it doesn't look bad. I was just able to tell. And so she got up and went to the bathroom, and she came back, and she's like, does it look better? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why you look at me like that? I said, 'cause it really doesn't. I lied to you. And so I told her, I said, don't even worry about it. I said, most people don't really be looking close at you like I was just looking at you. I said, people don't really notice. Says the one who noticed, right? And that's what she said. She's like, when you noticed? I said, that's because I wear makeup and I know you usually don't. And I noticed something was different about your complexion. And that's why when I looked twice like, okay, what is it that's different about her? And so, so that's that story. So my brows are done. This is what I do and this is how I do it. So let me know what you think. How do you do your brows? Do you block them off? And as I said, I don't use concealer to, you know, outline and all of that. Do you do all of that? Do you try really hard to get your brows even? Are you okay with them not being even? Did you not realize they weren't even? Or are your brows even? Lots of questions, I know. So let's just discuss below. Help each other out with our brows. I'm not satisfied that it doesn't come to a point. But when I had a bunch of hair here, it didn't come to a point. But I'm going to leave it because the more I mess with it, the worse it'll get. And so I am content with how they're looking. As I said, sometimes I try and do an arch, sometimes I don't. And so I'm okay with this. I am. I do hope this was helpful. I don't use brow pomades. I always use a brow pencil. If I did have brow hair all the way through, I would probably just use a dark eyeshadow and just brush that through, and that would be really easy. And if I did keep hair over here where I over tweezed, it would be easier even just to fill it in or create hair like strokes or whatever, but you can't create hair like strokes when there's no hair. And so if you are lacking tails on your brows and you want to try to get them somewhat even, and if you use a brow pencil or even pomades, I used to use, I think it was the Tarte one in the little jar years and years ago. I would create the shape and then fill it in, but it was just a lot of work. It was easier for me just to use a pencil because I had more control than using a brush, because one flick and it's just a mess. So that'll be it for this video. Thank you again for being here. And let me know what you think. Like, if you saw me on the street, I don't think you would know that these aren't my brows. And this is why I like the Lottie pencil, because I can get the color almost uniform, where it doesn't look lighter over here, where some brow pencils, it is very clear it's lighter over here, and it's like, okay, that is not her brows unless her hair is 2 different colors. So that's why I like this color. So anyway, I know I keep acting like I'm going, and then I'll start saying something else. Not this time. You will see me soon. Thanks.